What's going on, my fellow A-plusers? It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez, certainly coming through once again with another Titans review as we are set to go ahead and get into Season 3, Episode number 7, the brand new episode that we wind up getting on HBO Max today. So if you have not had the opportunity to check out the episode, please certainly go ahead and do so, as we will be diving deep into this particular week's episode. We also are not going live today because I'm not only a big football fan, but also a big Dallas Cowboys fan. And since the season actually kicks off today with Thursday Night Football, Dallas Cowboys are in fact playing the very first game of the season. As a fan, I gotta watch. So I will at least be having the review up for you guys, just not live today. But we certainly will be back live next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. So certainly go ahead and follow us then. But for episode number 7 this season, I was a big fan of this one. I really enjoyed it, especially the idea that we get some great action, get the opportunity to see the Titans working side by side once again, getting to see a little bit of a rekindling of Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon's relationship once again. Great focus on the sisters in this week's episode, with Starfire and Blackfire certainly making some progression, if you certainly will. I even love the Gar Logan stuff that we wind up getting in this episode, but we're going to be diving all into that along with a ton more, because I do certainly have some questions, especially in which the direction of the remainder of this season and where it certainly will go. So it should be certainly a good review, guys. But let's go ahead and dive into this. A couple of things that wind up jumping out to me that I definitely want to go ahead and discuss with you guys. But remember, these are just simply my A+ opinions. At the end of the day, though, I definitely want to know yours. What did you guys think about this week's episode? Let your thoughts be known in the live chat as this video is airing, or the comment section after the video itself streams, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go ahead and dive into this. First up being really the Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon situation that we find ourselves in. I love the fact that Oracle was introduced in this episode. We got teased at Oracle earlier on in this season. Wasn't quite sure if they were referring to Barbara Gordon herself or some sort of technology. So this is the episode where we get to see Oracle in action for itself. Now, when I look at Oracle in here, it feels a little bit different than what I'm used to in the comic books. But then again, this is also coming from a guy that's not fully caught up on everything that Barbara Gordon certainly did as Oracle. But when I look at Oracle, I almost look at it as them taking their own liberties to create almost an Overwatch sort of mentality, you know, the idea of, like, I don't want to say Big Brother per se, but just that idea that there's this technology out there that certainly will keep its eye on you, track everything that you're certainly doing, right? Barbara Gordon feels very iffy about the idea of having to utilize Overwatch, the idea of, like, it really breaching people's privacy, being able to hear any conversation that they're certainly having, right? Really causes a bunch of legal problems, something that Barbara Gordon certainly does not want to step into. But we do come to find out that Oracle was utilized once to go ahead and take down Scarecrow, so they decided to go ahead and certainly help it out and use it once again in here. And I think immediately we can certainly see the downside of what Oracle certainly means, right? The idea that they're starting to go into private conversations, right? Infiltrating and listening to what other people are certainly saying. So I definitely understand, like, sort of the moral dilemma that our heroes certainly facing here. But Dick Grayson's like, let's go with it, man. Like, we really have to go ahead and take down this guy. Let's go ahead and go for it. But I do find it interesting, just based off of how intelligent clearly the AI is for Oracle. I am surprised at the idea that somebody like Scarecrow is certainly able to break into Oracle. I mean, maybe the fact that he's got somebody like Jason Todd on his side allows him to kind of infiltrate that, sort of like be able to infiltrate that. But again, it just makes me think, like, I don't want to say a low-level criminal like Scarecrow, because he's clearly not low-level, but how does he actually acquire technology that Barbara Gordon clearly has shut down and not utilized before? So I do have some questions in regards to that. It did feel a little bit unbelievable, but I think in order for me to certainly make it work, I thought to myself, well, he's got Jason Todd, so maybe Jason certainly helped him come through. But when we come to find out that the Oracle is actually being taken advantage of, and Scarecrow's actually following following along with everything, I do love the decision here of Dick Grayson and Barbara to kind of go more old school, going analog, really trying to go ahead and figure out this case on their own merits. And I love the fact that we got some great detective work here by them. I feel like they probably could have done this anyway without Oracle, but I love the idea of at least getting a peek into what Oracle could potentially do, but also having to see them rely more on just their detective work and skills. And it certainly worked to perfection in here as they wind up actually managing to find out where Jonathan Crane was certainly doing his dirty work, if you will, putting together a huge, large variety, or I should say a huge amount of drugs that he plans on pushing out onto the Gotham streets, and that's where we wind up seeing the Titans kind of come into play. A really great action in here. I loved all the teamwork, whether that be Starfire and Blackfire back to back, taking out some of the guards. I love the fact that even for Gar, continuing to showcase just how great he is when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, clearly being able to take utilize his skill and take care of himself, which I really appreciate. And I also love the idea too that even though we're not necessarily getting into changing Gar into an animal completely, the fact that he's clearly learning how to utilize his abilities, you know, by changing his hand into like a tiger paw with his claws and using that to sort of attack without actually transforming his own body. So I really do love the techniques that they're utilizing for the team in here. Of course, seeing Dick Grayson whip that ass whenever you get the opportunity to do so, absolutely love seeing our Titans working together sort of as a team. But the idea that Dick Grayson and Barbara are actually working together, things have been kind of rocky, right? Kind of on and off. I was kind of wondering what their relationship was certainly going to kind of turn into. And I love the fact that a victory really kind of puts things into perspective for you. I mean, granted, maybe a victory and a couple of beers, even though Barbara only had one, certainly might make you feel some type of way, right? Or forgive people a little bit more. Now that the situation's a little bit more lighthearted and not as dire and grave as it certainly has been the previous 6 episodes, right? Now that they've actually come together, worked together well, and actually took down a criminal organization's plan, yeah, that'll definitely put anybody into a much better mood, knowing that you two can clearly work together and certainly get the job done. So, you know, when we do get that final scene towards the end between Barbara and Dick, I do love the fact that it winds up bringing up the same situation that we literally talked about last week of, you know, you get that awkward moment with Dick Grayson walking Barbara home, checking out the apartment, making sure she's going to be safe, right? And there's that reluctancy to want to leave, right? The fact that Dick really clearly took his own time, wanting to kind of get out, maybe hoping that he would stay around or that Barbara would invite him to kind of stay. He didn't get that invite, but he stayed long enough to kind of let some, you know, clearly let Barbara pick up on the idea, like, you really didn't want to leave last time when we saw each other, did you, sort of thing. So I do love that it winds up playing a factor here in this episode. The only downside that I will say to this is that I almost wish that Barbara hadn't said anything. And what I mean by that is, even though their romance has clearly returned, you know, the fact that she asks him, you know, when you left, you didn't want to leave, did you? I really wish that Barbara had just left it at that, because Dick Grayson was getting ready to go ahead and answer her, and then she quickly chimes in, because I didn't want you to, sort of thing. And to me, it was like, don't be thirsty. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be that way, Barbara. Like, you're an absolutely beautiful woman, sort of thing. It almost feels like it lets Dick Grayson off of having to answer the question. Granted, he answers the questions the way that he certainly wants to, right? He's like, you know, let me at least answer you first, and he answers it certainly with a kiss. To me, I felt like it would have just had more impact, and the idea of having to draw Dick Grayson out to actually answer that question himself. Like, I don't think Barbara needed to throw in, oh, because I didn't want you to leave. You're not desperate, girl. Don't be thirsty for Dick Grayson. Let Dick Grayson come to you. And he clearly certainly would have. So I just didn't need that a secondary line from Barbara. I really would have loved to have seen Dick Grayson actually be more of a take charge of that situation than Barbara coming across as a little thirsty. I get the idea and the appeal that you didn't want him to leave. That's fine. But that's a secret that you keep to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how you play the game. You don't necessarily hear what he's got to say first. And if this first thing he wants to do is give you a kiss to answer your question, psh, there you go. And then you let him know, well, I'm glad you answered that way because I didn't want you to leave anyway. But don't put yourself out there that quickly for Dick Grayson. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, Anyway, Dick Grayson, when it comes to women and Dick Grayson, a very hit or miss record, to certainly say the least. But I guess that means that him and Corey technically aren't dating. They maybe have something a lot more lax, if you will. And I guess for me, now that we are sort of in that romance mindset with Dick and Barbara, I do wonder where that goes from here. Are they going to be canoodling? Are they going to be closer than expected sort of thing going forward the remainder of the season? We'll definitely see. If anything, I do wonder where this leaves our characters for the most part at the end of this episode. The fact that we wind up getting Crane and Jason on the run, the Titans clearly looking at this as a victory and celebrating, stopping the drugs from hitting Gotham, even though the bad guys are certainly still out there. It feels almost like a changing of the chapter, like, yes, we've accomplished that. So I am kind of wondering if next week's episode, and I haven't seen any previews, I'm wondering if it's going to be more of a breather, taking a step back, maybe focusing on other characters for a change here, and then maybe get back into the Dick Grayson and Jason Todd and Scarecrow sort of storyline. So I'm kind of curious, like, we're 7 episodes into this season, guys, and we have yet to see somebody like a Rachel, a Donna Troy, Themyscira, Roy Harper hasn't popped up. We still haven't seen Tim Drake in his Robin costume, if that's something that we're even going to see, right? We didn't see the ramifications of Tim Drake's family or whatever the case may be that happened in last week's episode. So I do wonder if next week will be more of a, okay, now that we've gotten one of the big dilemmas out of the way, let's maybe start introducing other characters and then come back to the Scarecrow and Red Hood storyline. I don't know. That's just me simply speculating at this point. But clearly we see Scarecrow turning on Red Hood, clearly displeased at his attempt to go ahead and try and run Gotham into mayhem when Scarecrow clearly had other plans, right? Clearly making adjustments to the serum and things like that, wanting to push it and peddle it to some of the mob bosses as he starts kind of taking control. So Scarecrow really has become the overarching villain of this season, and I am kind of curious how Red Hood is certainly going to continue to fit into this. Like, now that he's captured and Scarecrow feels some type of way about him, is there going to be a redemption arc coming for him, right? I kind of hope not, just because of the fact that this guy, Jason Todd, has killed so many people already, that it's going to take me a lot of damn convincing to go ahead and give this man sort of another opportunity, right? Like, it almost reminds me very much of Kylo Ren coming out and killing his father, Han Solo, like a fan favorite, and then try and like turn him or redeem his storyline at the end of Rise of Skywalker, like after you've killed like everybody's fan favorite character, if you will. Not that Hank was anybody's fan favorite character, maybe it certainly was for you, but the fact that Jason Todd has killed a lot of people and done a lot of terrible things in Gotham, the idea of maybe giving him a redemption arc makes me want to scratch my head a little bit, even though we do have people like Gar trying to get his friend back, if you will. I don't know if he's going to end up helping out the Titans, maybe kind of stay a villain, or maybe that hit that sort of anti-hero sort of trope that's kind of going around these days. Somebody that's still a bad guy but doesn't mind taking down bad guys, that you can get away with, maybe a team up with the heroes to kind of take down the ultimate threat, right? Maybe Red Hood no longer is that. I just don't want to see him walk off into the sunset like nothing was wrong, right? I mean, he may escape for all we know. I would just find it odd, the idea of like a Red Hood all of a sudden on Titans by the end of the season after everything that this man has done. Like, am I wrong for that? I definitely would love to know what you guys think, if you think a redemption story is coming for Red Hood so quickly or not. But definitely go ahead and let me know your guys' thoughts. And then last but not least, I love the Blackfire and Starfire stuff, especially the fact that we are getting to see Blackheart kind of joining the Titans. Whether or not Blackheart has something else up her sleeve, if she's going to turn out to be like an infiltrator in disguise and just wanted to get close to the team before tearing them apart, I kind of hope not, based off of the fact that I'm actually really enjoying Blackheart being a part of this team. Just some of the sexual innuendo that's happening between her and Connor, her clearly checking this dude out up and down every single episode, and him clearly, I don't want to say clearly being interested, But even though I understand that Connor at some point in time probably will be exploring these tingling sensations or feelings that he's kind of getting, I would be fascinated to kind of see what happens between those two. But I really enjoyed this episode here this week. The idea that we got Starfire and Blackfire going to one of the mob bosses trying to make a deal with her. I will say this, I've watched this episode twice already, and the mob boss killing her son still catches me off guard each and every time. Like, I can't believe that she literally just pulled the trigger on her own son, shooting him dead in the head. But great stuff, if you ask me. I don't want to say maybe a little bit out of character, the idea that Starfire literally just flames this woman, but based off of the fact that she kills her son in cold blood, I kind of don't blame Starfire, if that makes sense. Especially, I love the scene where she is burning her, and if you look at Blackfire in the background, she's just smiling. She's like grinning ear to ear. I am kind of curious if there is a little bit of influence of Blackfire that's maybe getting to Starfire to maybe push her to those limits that I normally wouldn't probably see her just kill somebody out of cold blood like that. It just didn't feel very Titans to me, you know what I mean? It almost feels like she was channeling that queen aspect from her home planet sort of thing, and not really keeping her head on straight at the end of the day. But to be able to finally see Blackheart open up and tell the truth about her parents, like, I love the idea of the 51% rule that she mentions that her father suggested, right? The idea that, you know, if you have to make sort of a tough decision, even if it's one that only 51% people agree with, or you feel is the 51% is the good choice versus the 49%, or, you know, it being maybe the tough choice, the idea of going with the 51%, I thought really spoke volumes in this episode, especially when she relates it to her own personal life. You know, the idea that her parents were literally ready to sacrifice her because not only her parents, but her whole entire planet blamed her for Starfire not returning after the Trigon situation that we wind up getting between seasons 1 and 2. So the fact that Starfire doesn't return, everybody thinks that maybe if we kill off Blackfire, maybe her sister certainly will come back, sort of thing. So really put in a terrible position to where either you get sacrificed or you stand up for yourself, and that's where we get the idea that she felt 51% was the better choice to go, and that was in fact her survival, and thus why she wind up killing her parents and taking the throne for herself. So there definitely seems to be some level of regret, but also at the same sense just a level of survival. Like, I did what I certainly had to do, and you clearly come to see just how much Starfire didn't know about the situation, right? And now that her sister's opening up a little bit more, seeing Starfire comfortable enough to go ahead and give her some Tamarian sort of technology here, a brand new suit, which if you ask me, looks fire, absolutely great. Even love the Tamarian like salute and stuff that they wind up giving each other, the handshake. I was eating it all up, man. I was absolutely eating it up. So I'm really glad that we got to see a little bit more truth, if that is in fact the truth. I mean, it is Blackheart after all, if you've read the comic book. So I am kind of curious to see, is she telling us the truth? Is she telling us what we certainly want to hear to feel for her and then turn on us in the Titans as the season progresses? Who certainly knows? But I will tell you, I'm loving what we're getting in here. I truly, truly am. And then last but not least, just a quick honorable mention. We talked a little bit about Gar, but I do love the idea that Gar is constantly still trying to find his friend and help and locate Jason at all costs. We do see him bumping into Jason's friend at the end of this, Mallory, I believe her name was, to go ahead and try and see if she can locate Jason and go ahead and maybe pull him from the dark side. But, you know, for somebody that wasn't really utilized very well the first two seasons, I do love the bigger opportunity that they're giving him. We mentioned the idea of using his abilities differently in the fight, but we also see him utilizing his sense of smell as a creature or as an animal in here also to find Jason's sort of second secret stash, if you will. So I really love the way that they're using him this time around, giving him great dialogue, putting him in the middle of some of these investigative and detective work, giving him some great action pieces. So I'm actually a pretty big fan, allowing him to mingle with the heavy hitters this time, continuing to grow his relationship and friendship with Connor. I'm here for it, guys. I'm here for it. But overall, really solid and enjoyable episodes this week. I thought we had some great character growth, some great action also. So I will be eager to see what we wind up having in store for us for episode number 8. But again, guys, these are just simply my A+ opinions. At the end of the day, though, I want to go ahead and know yours, so let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. And if there's any character moments that I missed or other characters you want to highlight, maybe storyline details or plot concepts that I wind up missing also you want to further talk about, go ahead and throw those in the comment section, guys, and we'll certainly continue this discussion throughout the rest of the week until next week's episode. But in the meantime, guys, do me a big favor. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and until next time, keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. If you enjoy our content and want to be a part of helping our channel grow, become a patron supporter. We have affordable tiers to choose from that offer a variety of exclusive and early access content, from audio files for all of our shows for you to enjoy on the road, access to our Discord community, and plenty of reactions, reviews, character breakdowns, and more. Check us out at patreon.com/aplusopinions, and as always, remember, like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so anytime we drop a brand new video, you will be notified.